Good morning. I'm Steve Medeiros, your 2021 MAR president. It is my honor, along with my fellow officers, Kurt Thompson, Don Ruffini, and Marie Presti, to welcome all of you to the second ever virtual experience of the 36th annual Margaret C. Carlson Realtor Day on Beacon Hill. Margaret served as the first female president of the Massachusetts Association of Realtors. She was a true believer that meeting and engaging with local and state elected officials to promote the understanding of housing issues was a key part of being a realtor. Our efforts throughout this week will make a difference in the lives of homeowners, property owners, and tenants across the Commonwealth. To all of you who serve as state political coordinators, thank you. Your work in building strong relationships with our elected officials is essential to our advocacy efforts. Thank you for your contributions to our industry's success. I would also like to recognize all of the MAR past presidents who are joining us today. Thank you for your contributions to our profession. Later this morning, Justin Davidson, MAR's General Counsel and Government Affairs Director, will be reviewing the key issues that need to be highlighted with your stories this week. This is very important. As realtors, we must speak with one voice. Please keep your discussions to these housing issues outlined by our Government Affairs Committee and Board of Directors through our public policy statement. Now, I'd like to hand the program over to Melvin Vieira, Chair of MAR's Government Affairs Committee. Melvin?
Thank you, Steve, for handing this over to me. And I deeply apologize if I sound a little weird because I just had my tooth operated on, or should I say have filled. So anyway, I just want to say before we get this year's Private Property Rights Award winner, get to him, I would like to thank the hard work of the MAR Government Affairs Committee and thank you for all the time and energy you've put into this year so far in efforts. Now, I have the pleasure and honor of formally announcing the 2021 recipient of Massachusetts Association's Private Property Rights Award. But first, I would like to recognize our past recipients. Richard Delius, Dave Waluka, Judy Moore, Steve Ryan, Jeanette Ty, Susan Ruffini, Rita Coffin, Kimberly Allard, Kevin Sears, Corian Fitzgerald, Peter Ruffini, and Anthony Lamacchia. This year was created in 2011. This award was created in 2011 by the MAR, recognizing the outstanding achievements of the Massachusetts Realtor or staff who has been dedicated and supportive of the mission of all the levels of the Realtor Association surrounding the rights of the public to enjoy home ownership, and individuals who are leaders, for example, who have contributed the countless times and energy to the Government Affairs RPAC and continues to demonstrate his or her passion for the preservation of private property rights. A realtor who does not talk and just does not talk the talk, but also does the walk in the day in, day out. The 2021 recipient of Massachusetts Association Property Rights Award winner is Paul Yorkis. Paul's service record as an advocate for the realtor is far too long to list here today. He's a longtime member of the MAR Government Affairs Committee, which he has chaired in 2015. He has been a major investor for over decades. He has served as an FPC and an SPC to some of the most influential members of Congress and state legislators. He has dedicated countless hours to serve on policy making committees at NAR, MAR, GBAR, and the Realtor Commercial Alliance of Massachusetts. And I cannot think of a time when Paul has not attended a Realtor Day on the Hill or a mid-year meeting. Thank you for all that you've done on the behalf of our members. Congratulations, Mr. Paul Yorkis and Mr. Anthony Lamacchia. It's now your.
Thank you very much. I just got to Paul's house about 8 minutes ago, and we spent about 7 minutes with him asking. But I want to tell everyone that is listening, I am beyond honored to be the person to give this to Paul. Paul is one of my longest real estate friends in the business. I was fortunate to take a class with him when I got in the business, and I have since then gotten to be better and better friends and had the great fortune of working hand in hand with him on many, many different initiatives, both locally, in the state, and federally. And I know that I speak for many, many people involved in government affairs when I say, this, my friend, is overdue. This is overdue. You put your heart and soul into everything, and us realtors are lucky to have him, someone who's so passionate, so well connected in the political space, but truly puts their heart in with all the knowledge that he has. We're very lucky. So this is yours, my friend. Thank you. And I thank you. It's well deserved. Thank you, Melvin.
Thank
Do you
you
want to
very
say a
much.
few words, sir?
I'm just very honored to join you and all of your predecessors in this recognition. I truly am honored, and thank you all very, very much. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I really appreciate everything you've done for me in the association. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Steve Medeiros. Thank you, Anthony, as well.
Congratulations again, Paul. Thank you for all your efforts, buddy. All right, now it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Representative Aaron Michlewitz, Chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, one of the most influential positions in the legislature, and he is a true realtor champion.
So Steve,
Chairman, yep.
We're finished a little early, sorry. So
Okay.
The chair is going to join us at 10:25.
Ah, all right.
So let's, if we could pause on his introduction for a few moments, and Justin will fill the time with reviewing the issues, if that works for everyone.
Just like Day on the Hill, right? It's just like in
Exactly.
All right.
We're trying to make this as much like being in person as we can. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I will go over some priority issues and probably turn it over to Theresa after that. So with that, let's talk a bit about our priority issues. I think it goes without saying that I would much rather be doing this in the State House, but I will say the new offices in Foxborough are a pretty nice second get. So first of all, I want to thank all of you for logging on to join us for our Week of Advocacy kickoff event. But more importantly, I want to thank you for all that you've done to make our advocacy efforts successful. As an association, we could not have accomplished as much as we did under the circumstances we were facing last year without all of you identifying issues, prioritizing them for us, and of course, advocating on them. It was just last year that you all met with your legislators and spoke to them about the importance of funding for rental assistance to stave off evictions during the pandemic. A few months later, the state committed millions of dollars to the RAFT program to help prevent evictions, and Massachusetts became one of the leading states in getting rental assistance money into the hands of tenants and landlords. Last year, you also spoke to your legislators about the importance of increasing housing production and pushed for the passage of the Housing Choice Initiative. In January of this year, the Housing Choice proposal became law and will help with the production of the severely needed housing units here in Massachusetts. And that leads us right into our first priority issue. This year, we're asking you to thank your elected officials for passing the Housing Choice Law as part of the Economic Development Bill. But the work is not done. State law may have changed, but we still need our elected officials to be champions of housing production in their communities. So ask your legislators to do just that, to be a housing champion in their hometown. Massachusetts' estimated housing deficit is 4.1% of our total housing units, or roughly 120,000 units. That means we need to produce an additional 27,000 housing units per year just to catch up to where we need to be by 2025. Our next issue is one that is incredibly important, and that's the issue of fair housing. And this year, our priority issue is supporting a bill that would require all real estate agents to complete a minimum of 2 hours of continuing education credits every renewal cycle in fair housing or diversity in real estate. So this is bill number Senate 204 and House 333. It's filed by Senator Ruffini and Representative Chan. It's critical that the real estate industry does better when it comes to fair housing. And realtors recognize the significance of the Fair Housing Act and are steadfast in your commitment to upholding fair housing laws. but you can't do it alone. We need all real estate licensees to commit to understanding the law better and upholding its fundamentals. Our third support issue is the first-time homebuyer savings accounts. This is House 2840 and Senate 1834. It's been filed by Representative Carey and Senator Sear. And we all know that first-time homebuyers are facing unprecedented challenges with record high home prices combining with student loan debt. This makes it incredibly difficult for people to enter into the housing market. The first-time homebuyer savings account will help expand access to the American dream of home ownership by allowing future homebuyers or their families to deposit up to $5,000 per year in a first-time homebuyer savings account and then claim that as a deduction when they do their taxes. The gains are tax exempt and it is capped at 15 years or $50,000. And one thing I do want to note here is that the economic impact of a home sale in Massachusetts is now $146,000. So this is something that communities should be supporting housing production. There are, of course, a few issues that we need to oppose this session. And the first one is transfer taxes. And I've just given you a few bill numbers on our other priorities. And here I'm not going to, because there are over 10 bills filed this session that seek to create a new sales tax on a home. These would, of course, exacerbate Massachusetts' longstanding housing affordability crisis by increasing the bottom line price of homeownership, often by thousands of dollars. This raises the barrier to homeownership many families already face due to the high cost of housing here in Massachusetts. And of course, rentals are also affected as increased transaction costs get passed on to tenants. Such transfer taxes undermine the basic tenet of fairness and tax policy by forcing home buyers and sellers, which account for roughly 2.5% of the population each year, to be the sole direct funders of a community-wide responsibility. And there are alternatives. MAR applauds communities working to identify revenue sources to create and preserve affordable housing. But these communities should be looking to the Community Preservation Act, sometimes called the CPA. This allows the residents of a municipality to raise additional revenue for affordable housing through a property tax surcharge with a state contribution as well. Our final issue this year is rent control. So this is House 1440, Senate 889, House 1378, and Senate 886. MAR, of course, opposes rent control in all forms. It reduces the quality and quantity of available housing. It disincentivizes property owners and developers from investing in multifamily housing. And Massachusetts does not produce enough multifamily housing as it is. We need to do more to incentivize multifamily development, not make it harder. Finally, just like transfer taxes, rent control is unfair. The cost of affordable housing should be shared by the entire community, not just property owners. So with that, I will now turn it back over to Theresa, who will talk a bit about effective advocacy.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And congratulations, Paul. So excited to be with you today. This is my third experience of our Day on the Hill, 2 of which have been virtual. So next year, I can't wait to see you all in person again. In the meantime, I want to share a story of a 23-year-old Theresa living outside of Washington, D.C., working in a tech startup in telecommunications industries. Think of AOL before it was acquired by Time Warner. Like, it was big and huge, and that was the time when everything was popping. And I was renting and living a young 20-year-old life, which was a lot of fun. And my mother was always harping on me that I needed to buy someplace. I needed to buy. I didn't believe in paying rent. She wanted me to buy somewhere. I said, Mom, it's so expensive right now. There's no way I'm going to be able to buy a place on my own. And so I downloaded Quicken, which I still use to this day, and started looking at my spending habits and realized if I cut out brand name cosmetics, a young 20-year-old giving up brand name cosmetics, anyone who can relate to that or has a child can understand, and Starbucks, giving up Starbucks was also involved in that. So cutting back on those two things and saving, you know, a few $100s a month turned into, after a few months, something that could be used towards a down payment. I looked at a place and called the listing agent. I had no idea about buyer representative. I was flying blindly, but with my mother's push and determination, I went in, talked to the agent. He hooked me up with a mortgage broker. The mortgage broker had me take this class, which was part of the AmeriDream program, which unfortunately is no longer in existence. But taking that class gave me a bonus $3,000 to be able to use to put down. And the class helped me learn so much about my finances and what to expect after being an owner. It was truly life-changing. And so I went forward successfully and bought a co-op. Nobody told me about co-ops. I know you're all laughing. I didn't know either. But that was my first experience buying, and it was outside of Washington, D.C., and it was wonderful. And I wound up selling the unit a year and a half later and made $50,000 plus in profit, which I was able to use on my next home purchase for my first married home with Emma's father. So it all worked out wonderfully. And these are the types of stories that your legislators need to hear. They need to hear from you how the laws, the regulations impact the end users. You know, Justin and his team have already sent the written information. The staff at the legislative offices have read the written information. They understand the laws. What they need you to do is connect that first-time home buyer saving account to the real people, to their constituents in their districts. So please, please, please share those stories. Think about your clients, think about yourself, think about how you can connect the real people to these issues, and we'll be very successful. Steve, I'm going to hand it back over to you to fill in a little bit of space, share a story, maybe your VA story of your brother or your cousin, was it, I believe? Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So my cousin actually just was able to purchase a home. He purchased a 4-family in Fall River, and he was actually a veteran. He had just gotten out of the military, just completed his service back in January, and was under agreement. And then the pandemic hit. Was fortunate enough that he was able to still make it through with his purchase, because we literally closed it probably about a week or two after the shutdown. But it's allowed him now to have a place where he can live and he can build, kind of a for his future by starting off with a rental property that he probably wouldn't have gotten into otherwise. So, and he's saved up, he didn't have to save up a lot of money because he came out of the service with not a lot. And having that VA loan was really, really, really important. But I've had plenty of other people who've used some other savings accounts that were offered by some nonprofits in the New Bedford area. And so they're not offered by the state, but they were these accounts where they would put in, and some of these nonprofits would match for these low income individuals. So it'd be great if we could have something like this as well.
Melvin, I think, has a story as well.
So I was very fortunate to be the actual very first realtor to ever teach the first-time homebuyer program for MAHA, Massachusetts Housing Alliance. MAHA is located in Dorchester, Massachusetts. And the beautiful thing about is they started off with what they call the soft second program. And Florence Tennigan, who was the first recipient of the soft second program, which is now called the One program, hired me to teach the class. Now it was about 19, almost 20 years ago now. And I was very fortunate. And so I've been teaching those classes ever since then. And one thing about the One program is so beautiful. It's actually throughout the whole state of Massachusetts. And the beautiful thing is it allows a buyer to put down 1.5%. And the Massachusetts will match those local banks who are supporting part of the One program will put down the other remaining for them, and then turn around. So my thing is this, is that it's a beautiful situation that I was able to help out a lot of first-time homebuyer through that program. I was also able to, since I was doing a lot of stuff in the city of Boston, also in the town of Brockton, Lowell, I've done some things up there, and Haverhill and other areas. I was also able to get the some buyer assistance money through that actual town or that municipality. So I was able to go to the local websites and get that. So I'll tell you, there's a lot of beautiful things you can use out there if we'd all, just go ahead and grasp and take a hold of those. So please look into the one program and look at what banks and what lenders actually participate in them. And it's a great program. And if you have buyers who have very low down payment, I suggest try it out. I think you might like it. Thank you.
That's awesome, Melvin. And just think about how successful, the upcoming 20-year-olds would be if they're allowed to start saving sooner in a first-time home buyer saving account and then partnered with these other programs. Just like that's what happened to me. And it's truly the American dream. Okay.
Theresa, too, what really struck me was what Justin said about, $146,000 going into our economy for every home sale. That's huge. And I think that's a number that we need to get across to our legislators, because when they hear that, they realize that they need to support, some of these initiatives that we're trying to talk to them about.
Absolutely. We, Justin and I, our PR group contacted us to give some information, and turns out that, we were using a statistic, but over this past year, the statistics were updated and the financial impact of a home buyer is significantly more than it was just 2 years ago. So with that, welcome, Representative Michlewitz, and Steve will do a brief introduction and then we'll turn it over to you. Thank you for being with us this morning.
All right, so now it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Representative Aaron Michlewitz, Chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. Again, he is one of the most influential positions in the legislature, and he's a true realtor champion. Chairman Michlewitz was born and raised in the North End of Boston. He has lived and worked in the neighborhood he represents his whole life and currently resides in the North End with his wife, Maria. First elected to the Massachusetts House of Representatives in 2009, Michlewitz represents the 3rd Suffolk District, which comprises the Boston neighborhoods of the North End, Waterfront, Chinatown, South End, Downtown, Leather District, Bay Village, and portions of the West End, Beacon Hill, and the Back Bay. A graduate of Northeastern University, he has dedicated himself to helping others. He has become a popular mentor to many of his neighborhood's youth, for whom he has been a fixture through our organized sports programs. Mr. Chairman, we are thankful to have you with us today, and the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. And for how I'm conducting this, I was supposed to be on a earlier train this morning that got delayed coming home from New York. Today is actually my birthday, believe it or not. And so my wife took me for my birthday, a little surprise. So I apologize for this. And I'm being a good citizen by still keeping my mask on. So, most importantly, I didn't want to miss the opportunity to say a few words and to appreciate the work that we have done together, with the Mass Realtors Association. We've always had a relationship, and many of you know, the door is open, always open when the State House open, to talk through these issues that are important and hopefully come to a mutual beneficial understanding. Hopefully we'll be able to have these types of meetings. I'm somewhere across appreciate the cooperation that we've had together. Lobby days or lobby weeks, as I guess you guys are hosting here with a week of advocacy, are great ways for legislators like myself to get to hear from constituents and other interested parties about the issues that they care about. And by representing downtown Boston as I do, the issues that realtors have to deal with are ones I hear about regularly each and every day. Housing is a pressing issue, a pressing concern, not only for my district and not only for the city of Boston, but for the Commonwealth as a whole. And it has a major effect on our economy, something that as the House Ways and Means Chair, I am especially mindful of and always have to keep a close eye on. Just this past January, I was proud to work with the Baker administration to help enact the housing choice legislation through an economic development bill that we had been working on last year. This will hopefully lead to greater housing production across the state, giving more people the opportunity to become homeowners. It'll hopefully also lessen the burden that Boston has had to hold by spreading the housing production wealth across the Commonwealth to other parts of the state. COVID-19 pandemic and the public health crisis it has caused, it is no secret that the last year has been a roller coaster ride for the state's economy. Going into the summer of 2020, the Commonwealth had one of the highest unemployment rates in the country, and economists were predicting that we could have a budget deficit as high as $6 billion, which was leading to many sleepless nights for me in terms of trying to figure out how to do the state budget. But as we started to get a better grasp of the virus, and with the strong financial assistance from the federal government, the state's economy and fiscal picture has slowly improved. Now with business restrictions, hopefully behind us for good, our job numbers are improving. People are returning back to normal activities. I'm traveling, doing things like that. People are moving around the country, moving around the state. And the Commonwealth is looking at potentially record budget surpluses as we close out our fiscal 2021 year next month. While we all have to remain vigilant against the virus, the state's positive vaccination numbers have allowed us to begin to focus on a recovery and to build a more resilient and equitable Commonwealth. We have a unique opportunity in front of us with the funds that the Commonwealth has received from the American Rescue Plan. My colleagues and I in the legislature, along with the administration, are starting the process of crafting how to use these funds in a most strategic way to help bring back our economy and bring it back strong. But we can also not sit back and rest on the laurels, thinking that we've gotten out of the woods today just because some job numbers are starting to improve. The amount of federal assistance we have received over the last 2 years through items like PPP loans, stimulus checks, unemployment assistance has kept us stable, but it has also potentially given us a false sense of security in terms of where we actually are as an economy. It'll be critical as we get the economy moving before we got to get the economy moving before these federal dollars run out. That is the task that is at hand for many of us in the State House at the moment, and that's what we are very focused on. In the House, in particular, we have hit the ground running so far this session, passing emergency sick time legislation for essential workers, unemployment relief for employers and employees alike, and passing a budget just this past April that made major investments in areas like education, housing assistance, food security, just to name a few. We did all this without raising any new revenue, or cutting any services. And if you look back to where we were last year, and the idea that we actually were able to get through this without cutting any services is beyond remarkable, and something that a lot of us are very proud of, that we were able to do that. If we had taken those original projections back in the first part of the pandemic, with the $6 billion shortfalls, predictions of shortfalls and whatnot, we would have had to make cuts, and it would have had a further impact on our economy, and it would have made it even much more difficult for us to come back from. So for us to be able to get through that experience without making any major service cuts has been tremendous. Starting this week, we're going to begin the conference negotiations with the Senate, with my colleagues in the Senate, to hammer out the budget differences and send the budget over to the governor, hopefully by July 1st. As we all know, sometimes we're a couple days late in relation to that. But when you look at what we had to deal with last year by not getting a budget done until November, I think a couple of days late is not as big of a deal as it used to be, I guess to say. Again, I want to thank you for all the work that the Realtors Association does, and for the work that you provide us, the information you provide us, the advocacy you provide us, and the cooperation and the partnership that you provide us over the years. I'm looking forward to continuing to work with everyone in the coming weeks and months ahead as we try to bring this, keep bringing this economy back and working on difficult issues like housing across the Commonwealth. So thank you, Steve, and thank you. I see Justin over there. It's good to see everyone. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few words. And I apologize for the this is the world we live in, I guess, right? In today's Zoom world. But I appreciate the opportunity to be patient and work with me and trying to give you some insight into what's going on at the State House.
Great. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed your time in New York City. It's a different city than it was just a few years ago. And the pandemic.
Well, the Red Sox winning last night was a good part of the birthday weekend. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for using mass transit and keeping your mask on. And thank you for all you do for housing and the realtors and the constituents inside of your district and everybody else across the Commonwealth.
Thank you. Good to see everyone.
You too, thanks.
Safe travels. Happy birthday.
Bye. Thank you.
Steve?
All right. So once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. Congratulations again to Paul. Thank you so much to Melvin, our Government Affairs Committee members, and our SPCs. Enjoy your time with our legislators this week. And thank you very much for your very important service to our industry as you speak with our legislators. So thank you again, and enjoy your sessions when you have your time scheduled with your legislators. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Congratulations, Paul. Visit our website, download your localized Week of Advocacy Zoom backdrops. And if you want Justin, Johnny, or myself, anybody from MAR team to join you at any of your meetings, of course, we're here for you for anything you need. Even if it's a last minute question while you're in a session and you want to text us, email us, whatever works, we're here for you all week long and all year, but this week especially. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Melvin. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Dawn, Kurt, Marie. And congratulations, Paul.
Thank you.
Hold up your award. There you go.
Have a great week, everyone.